Okay, well, welcome everybody to our introduction to OmniTrader 2020. We are calling this presentation Bringing Profitable Trades into Focus. My name is Jeff Drake and I'm being helped by Angela Duran today. We still have a lot of people coming in. I want to start close to on time at least. And just to let you know, of course, those of you that are arriving late, I guess they probably wouldn't hear this, but anyway, we are making a recording of this. We will send out the recording, but this is a great attendance for our introduction to OmniTrader 2020. And I'm sure if you've seen any of the material we have sent out, you're excited as we are about this update to OmniTrader. And of course, in this presentation, we'll take about 20-25 minutes to look at the features of OmniTrader 2020, the whole upgrade package. All right, and we'll have a short Q&A at the end, so I'll only keep you for about 30 minutes or so, so that we're not taking up too much of your time, but you do understand why we are so excited about this upgrade. In fact, let me say, we do an upgrade every year, and some years the upgrade's a little bit better than others. I think sometimes the features apply to just maybe a few people, something that are a little more program oriented or something like that. This year, I think the features that we have in the upgrade and the upgrade package are applicable to anybody who is trying to find the best trades in the market, but also avoid the bad trades in the market. Just as important, if not more important. And this year, what we have done is concentrated on multiple time frame analysis. Now, that's not the only thing in the upgrade. In fact, I'll talk at the end of this presentation about just some of the maintenance features we've actually included in this upgrade, which makes it very special as well. But I think the big features are the multiple time frame analysis features, so that we'll be concentrating on those in the bulk of this presentation. So let's go ahead and talk about multiple time frame analysis. Now, there are different ways to use multiple time frame analysis. Some people will look at lower time frames in order to get better entries or exits, and that's actually a great way to look at multiple time frame analysis. But most people will look to higher time frames to get information. The reason you would do that, for the most part, is that you're trying to reduce noise, and these two charts for ACN actually show an example of that. And you see it's trending upward a bit in 2019 as far as May, June, the summer months here. But we do have these pullbacks. Is this a reversal? Here's a big pullback in July. And if we just look at the weekly chart for ACN, we can see that the pullbacks are basically wicks in these weekly candles. And we see a nice steady uptrend, a slight pullback, a nice uptrend, a big pullback. Look at the candle here that is occurring as we approach the $200 level. And so it's a little bit easier to differentiate between noise and actual moves in the chart if you're looking at higher time frames. All right, so that's how most people will look to it. All right, so let's take a look at different indicators in different time frames. On the left, we have the daily chart for American Express, and it's showing a 50-period moving average. You can see price actually reacting to that moving average in the second quarter of 2019. We have a push through it, it's bouncing around it, and then it falls below the moving average. It's actually testing the 50-period moving average at this point. All right, so you can see that we do see some reactions to the 50-period moving average in the daily time frame. However, what we don't see is the 50-period weekly moving average. We have to go to a weekly chart, or we did until now. We have to go to a weekly chart and plot a moving average on it, and we see that as price pulled back and tested this 50-period moving average, it actually responded to it and bounced back up. Now let's go back to that daily chart. This is where that was. We have zero indication at this point, at least as far as the moving average is concerned, that something might happen here. But if we went to a higher time frame, again, we have that noise reduction. Look at the beautiful upward trend on American Express and the steady downward trend as well in that higher time frame. So what we see here is, okay, here's the actual moving average. It's already been reacted to multiple times before, and here just recently it was as well. That's information that we want. And until this point in OmniTrader, we didn't really have that. You'd have to do exactly what I'm showing here on the slide. go to another time frame, and have that indicator plotted. Well, OmniTrader 2020 now has multi-time frame indicators. All right, so if we take a look at the chart here now, this is a daily chart for American Express, the exact same one we were looking at, but I'm plotting a weekly indicator, the 50-period moving average. So now we don't have to jump around different time frames in our charts in order to get that higher time frame information. As you can see here, we have the moving average as prices pull back on the daily chart, testing the weekly indicator. And also I've shown here below, we also have an RSI 14 periods that is plotting as well. And you can see the plots, they go sideways a little bit. I'll talk more about that here in just one moment. But you can see that there's different ways that we can look at information in higher time frames now in our trading time frame or our base time frame, let's say, in order to get more information handed to us. All right, let me also say that in strategies in OmniTrader before, we had this capability. And for those of us that develop strategies, it was a great tool to use. However, we were never able to visualize this information. So if you're a strategy developer or want to be a strategy developer, then this is something I have just found, we just had this now for a few weeks. I found it incredibly useful because now I can see these higher time frames as far as the analysis being performed on them rendered into my base periodicity. Let's talk about the different ways that we can actually analyze these higher time frames. And there's two different methods that we use. The first one is called previous bar. All right, and the easiest example is to look at a daily chart and think about a weekly indicator. And that's what we're looking at here. And the second way is called dynamic. Let's talk about the first way first, previous bar. So what we do is, of course, there are 5 days in a week. So what we look at is the previous value that would end. So Monday through Friday is the week we look at, and whatever value that indicator is at on Friday is what's returned. And that's why this moving average looks like stairs, right? You have the stair-step approach because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're looking back to last Friday's value in order to determine our higher time frame indicator value. Now, this is how most people will, not most people, this is how everybody else out there actually uses multiple time frame analysis. They look at the last value. Now, we did something in the strategies a few years ago. I talked about this before where we had this capability, but now we can visualize it. It is called the dynamic method of looking at higher time frames. We see that here on the right. This is something that only OmniTrader 2020 owners will have, is the ability to have a dynamic indicator. Let me tell you what it does. What it does is it creates multiple versions of that indicator. All right, so again, in a weekly time frame, we have 5 different daily periodicities. So what a dynamic indicator on that weekly time frame will do is create 5 different instances of that indicator. All right, so we have 5 different weekly moving averages. So you would have your classic Monday through Friday value, but then the next day it would use a different instance of that indicator, which would be Tuesday through Monday. The next day it would use Wednesday through Tuesday, and so on and so forth, so that every day it's using these arrays that are being created in order to create this dynamic indicator. And you can see the difference here. In fact, look at the pullback in October on Allstate. There's a little stair step on the classic way of plotting a higher time frame indicator. Look how close it got here on the dynamic indicator as it's looking at the different arrays, the 5 different instances of the higher time frame indicator. And you can see it's actually testing that and moving. We really don't see that over here. And this is a very simple example because we are looking at, again, just 5 different instances. Let's look at a more dramatic example. Here again, we are comparing 2 different indicators, but now we're in real time. And we are in a 5-minute chart, and we're looking at the RSI. It's a 10-period RSI. On the left, we have our previous day close value. And real-time traders like to use the daily information a lot, right? Most people look at daily charts, they're reacting to daily charts, so real-time traders like that information. And we see as this chart here for Walmart is moving upwards, we see momentum rising on the RSI. At least we see momentum rising when the day ends. It's waiting till the session ends to say, oh, okay, here's your new daily value. Boop, and it moves up a little bit. All right, and then it measures the information, or waits till the end of the day, measures the information, says, oh, okay, here's your new daily value, and it jumps up a bit. So it's right now at the top of the scale, which would be 60.21. Now, to the right, we are looking at a dynamic version of that indicator. It's showing momentum rising too. You can see prices coming up on those days. And so the dynamic calculation, again, looks more like a classic indicator. You don't see that flat line anywhere, and it's moving upwards. But look what happens on October 14th. Price drops. Momentum has been lost on this security on that day. And let's say we're at 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something. And if we were looking at the classic way of plotting these indicators, it would be telling us momentum's high on this, but we know it's different. And that's the value of the dynamic method of calculating these indicators. It's reacting with every 5-minute bar in order to look at the different array of the daily indicators or the daily RSIs. And so you are getting this information. I think this example is so powerful, showing the actual value of the dynamic method versus the previous method. Okay, so that's a bit, we'll revisit the dynamic concept here in just a bit, but it's not just adding the multiple time frame indicators to OmniTrader. It's adding something nobody else has except OmniTrader 2020 owners. That is the ability to look at the dynamic calculation. Let's look at another feature that we have added to OmniTrader 2020. That is our MT color charts. And this looks a little odd, right? It looks like we just have stripes on our chart. Well, that's because it's telling us that we have created a color chart here based off a higher time frame. All right, we see at the top here, it's showing an SMA of 50 weeks, and it is plotted here. All right, and you can see as price drops throughout that SMA, we get red lines. The lines are just a visual indication that this is a different time frame indicator that is calculating. This is actually a previous bar calculation. It is calculating on that so that we know, just by glancing at our charts, I created a color chart using a higher time frame, and I can tell that because I have these stripes instead of the solid color you would see in the current time frame. So very easy to do that in the color charts. I talk about that in the seminar that comes with the upgrade package. You just go in and basically define your indicator and tell it what time frame you want to target, and you can get this display, which instantly tells you higher time frame information. All right, well, we also have added something for those of us who want to code something, and that is called the multiple time frame, or MT OmniScript. And this is a little function, and you can see it here, where we can say multiple time frame, define the indicator, define which time frame, and whether we want dynamic, which would be 1, or previous bar 0 to be used. Where can this be used? Well, it can be used in OmniScan. We'll talk a lot about that here in just a bit. You can also use it in trade plans. You know, in trade plans, you can write a little OmniScript to use the stop. Well, now you can use multiple time frame, either lower or higher time frame, in order to determine that. Of course, you can do it with color charts. You can also have a focus list column with indicators where you could use this. You can also create a quick indicator, you know, right click, add quick indicator, and just create your own indicator using multiple time frames. And also, of course, you could use it in Omni language in order to have indicators, systems, stops, so on, based off of different time frames. All right, so you can already see that we really focused on this multiple time frame analysis from a visual perspective, as well as the ability to automate something using this analysis. Okay, so those are the multiple time frame tools that are in the base OmniTrader. Now the package includes a plugin, and we call the plugin MT Vision. And of course, that would stand for multiple time frame vision. And what this does is it takes those indicators we just talked about and collapses those or condenses those into a view that is very simple to look at. And since it is basically telling you what you're looking at and showing you different colors based off the conditions that you're using, you can use it in order to quickly confirm trades, find trades, avoid bad trades, a lot of examples of that, and also, of course, to confirm exits. And we see an example here now. Since we haven't really talked about this yet, you're looking at this saying, how do I use that? And I understand, but it's actually easier than you think. In fact, let's take a look at the next slide and look at exactly what we're looking at in MT Vision. Now, MT Vision uses an indicator, same indicator. And in this example, we're using the trend intensity index with parameters of 40 and 20. It's the same indicator applied to all the time frames in your profile. In this example, I was in a real-time profile, and I went ahead and had 4 time frames: 5-minute, 15-minute, 60-minute, and daily. And so what it's telling me, for those of you that are familiar with the trend intensity index, is that if it's green, we're bullish. If it's red, we're bearish. And you can see this information, and we'll take a look at this interface here in just a moment. But you can use this information, whether it's on previous bar or dynamically, in order to determine, okay, are we bullish in the 5-minute time frame, or are we bearish, or maybe a little indeterminate, right? And then we can get confirmation just moving up the ladder here, basically. There's the 15 minutes. We see, okay, this looks more like a bullish that has a few little weak spots. Let's go to the 60-minute time frame. This looks pretty bullish. Maybe a little weak here. Daily, it's been very bullish. All right, so maybe a short signal just because our lower time frame generated here. Let's say the chart was up here and we had a short signal generated. We look at it and say, it's kind of risky, because our higher time frame information is telling us, just with a glance at the chart itself and MT Vision, that the higher time frames are bullish. So a short signal at this point may not be prudent. Okay. Let's talk about creating an MT Vision. It looks like, wow, that's a lot of work. It's actually not. In fact, we'll go into OmniTrader here in a moment, and I will do that, because you can create an MT Vision with the click of a button. All right, and you can base it off any indicator. There's a huge list, and we'll look at that. But it basically is showing you every single indicator, the ones we've provided, the ones that are in the plugins, indicators you've written in Omni language. Everything's available for you to create an MT Vision from. And there's also different ways to customize it. Of course, the classic way is red means bearish, blue means bullish, but you can change it any way you want. So let's go ahead and jump into OmniTrader 2020. We have the MT Vision installed here, and take a look at it. All right, we have here Abbott Laboratories. Looks like it's been strong the last couple of years, a little pullback here recently. Let me go to chart options. And your MT Visions are a property of your chart options or your chart template. All right, so I could have different templates as far as what I want to see from my MT Vision. So let me click on chart options, and I'll bring the interface over here. And you can see we have our tabs here at the top. You're probably familiar with all of these, or most of these at least. We have a few plugins. On the far right is our newest plugin, MT Vision. There's our list of all the different indicators we have available. All right, and let's go back. Actually, let's go down. I'm going to pick an indicator most people are familiar with. Let's look at maybe the relative strength index. It's one of my favorites. I will go ahead and just enable it, and now I have access to these buttons. Now we're cheating a little bit because you already see something pop up back there. But we'll get there in just a moment. I do want to show you, though, that you could say, let me edit this. And of course, you can change the parameters of the indicator. Let's make it a 10-period indicator. And here's the MT Vision parameters. This is how it's going to render the colors on your lines below the chart. You can have it do automatic, which it is automatically set to. You can say equal bin size and determine the values. Or you can say, I want custom boundaries. This is why I like to look at the relative strength index, because the levels mean something on this indicator, right? Most people would say below 30 means that it's probably oversold. Below 70 is overbought. And of course, that also depends on the parameter of your indicator, but you have total control as far as the boundaries here if you want to create custom boundaries. So let me do that. I'm going to click that, and I like 20 and 80 on a 10-period RSI. And here we have our different colors. So we can pick our low color, our middle color, or our high color. And I'm not going to click on that just yet. Let me click close. And back out here. And there's our display. All right, so what are we seeing? And I'm already seeing good information here. Let's zoom in a little bit. And we move the chart. Let's look at 2018. Because what we have here is basically an upward trend, right? We do have pullbacks. And those pullbacks are reflected in the daily chart and also the daily RSI that's being shown in MT Vision. Now we see a little more green in the weekly line for MT Vision, but I also added a 4-week level as well. You can see all we see is temporary weakness in what is otherwise a pretty bullish chart, and that's just using the numbers that were already sitting there. So there's different ways that you can render this information to get, or render these indicators from higher time frames to get the information you want. All right, it could be very green, we are overbought, as you see here, right? Or you're looking for pullbacks in a strong trend. Right away, you can see that, right? There's a little pinkish area. It has pulled back a bit, but the higher time frame is saying, no, we're still in an upward trend. Good buying opportunity right there. Okay. All right, let me go back to that interface. I'll click on Chart Options. And there we have it. Let me click on Edit. Here's other things you can do with it. What if I wanted to look at the symbols group information that is on the chart? I could simply say $group. And now I will close it. And I'm sorry, I didn't download the group information on here. But if I had downloaded it, you would see the actual group information being rendered there. Let's look at an example I know will work because I've already had that data downloaded. Maybe the broad market. How about SPY to represent the broad market? I click close. Okay, now what we're looking at is the actual information for the broad market itself. As you can see here, RSI of 10 periods on the SPY. All right, and so that can help us confirm those trades almost instantly by looking at what's going on in the broad market itself. One more thing I want to show you in this interface. Let me bring that up. Click Edit. We also have the ability to say, are we going to use the dynamic method or the previous bar method? Now, for most indicators in the daily charts, what you'll see is that they're pretty similar. In fact, let me look at previous bar. I'll click close. If you have a photographic memory, you remember exactly what the dynamic rendering looks like, but it was very similar to this, right? Pullbacks, again, on the SPY in a bullish trend. So very similar, again, because we're only looking at 5 different arrays. You actually get a much more dramatic difference, as we saw in that example with the real-time chart, in real time, depending on the periodicities you're looking at. All right, let me go back to that. One more thing I want to show you is, in fact, we will talk about how we have provided something like this for you. Whoops, let me go back. I had the RSI and I lost it. There it is. All right. And again, this is looking at the actual SPY. See that down here? I know it's in yellow, a little hard to see, but it's looking at the SPY. Well, let me duplicate this, and it creates a duplicate. I can say, all right, so I want to look at the broad market information. I'm going to delete that and click close. And I click close again. Now I have 2 MT Visions. The bottom one is showing me the broad market. The top one is showing me the symbol itself. If you look at this example for ABT, strong upward trend on the actual symbol itself long term. We have the broad market, again, trending upward, not as strong. We do see that the broad market has pulled back, so ABT has followed that a bit. A great pullback, outstanding opportunity to take advantage of temporary weakness in an otherwise strong market. All right, let's go back to the presentation and talk a little bit more about the other features that are included in MT Vision. Now, what you just saw me do is something that we have been doing over the last few weeks here. That is creating a template. Remember that these MT Visions are part of your chart templates. And so we have included 6 different chart templates with MT Vision that are designed to find different things. Here's one example. We call this MTV Momentum. And this is basically looking at your daily and weekly momentum by looking at the 10 period RSI. And what we have here is strong momentum to the upside on the weekly time frame, but then we see a temporary pullback. So it lost momentum at this point. Again, these pullbacks and trends we really like. I know you do too. Great opportunity as you see it recovered at that point and moved upward. And so for each one of these different templates, there is a specific thing you're looking for. We talk about that in the seminar, which I'll talk about here in just a bit. But we do provide pre-configured templates in MTV. Now, having the capability to use OmniScript in the Omni scans, we also created MT Vision Omni scans. We have 6 different Omni scans that are based off some of the templates that are provided. You can see I've checked off a few here, or actually this is all of them, and you can see that we have, MTV trend bearish and bullish. We have the momentum scan. So you can just scan for the actual securities that are currently matching what MTV is showing you visually. Let me go back to OmniTrader very quickly here and just take a look at some of these. I'm going to clean the chart up and go back to standard. And you see I have the scans enabled. Just as an example, let's look at the bearish and bullish. Now, using the higher time frame, what information are we getting? We're getting this type of information. Let me zoom in a little bit here. A very strong, because it's ignoring the noise of the current time frame we're looking at here daily. It's not ignoring it. It's looking at that, but also incorporating the information from the higher time frame, which would be weekly in this case. And I'll just click on a few here. You may see some gaps, which might mess it up. See how we have a very consistent downward trend with a lot of these securities. It's hard to find something that is this consistent as far as saying, okay, this is in a downward trend. Now I can apply my strategies to these scans in order to find the right entry point and then use my trade plans and my strategies to help me manage the trade. Let me show you the bullish as well. Here we have MTV trend bullish, and we got the custom. There we go. Now you can see, look at this pushing straight upward there for Apple, ACAD. There's a gap. Of course, indicators have little problems with gaps. Still looks a little bullish though. Look at this beautiful upward trend. So by looking at the higher time frame, we feel that we're getting better qualified candidates because it's, again, eliminating a lot of that noise we see in the current time frame. All right, so that's an overview of the multiple time frame features in OmniTrader 2020, as well as the plugin that comes with the package, MT Vision. I do want to talk about, though, some of the other features we have included in the OmniTrader 2020 upgrade. A lot of the other features, we went back and looked at, okay, for every upgrade, we've been adding code, and we add this, we add that, and a lot of that stuff is really good. Unfortunately, though, at some point, you have all that old legacy code, and you're adding code to it. You want to say, okay, let's hit a pause button and go and clean some things up. And that's what we did with this version. And so I think even if you don't want to use the multiple time frame features, I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you didn't want to use the multiple time frame features, some of these other, let's call them maintenance additions we have added, I think just makes OmniTrader so much easier to use. Number one, far and away, I think the biggest maintenance feature is ultra fast compiling. For those of you that are going in and turning on and off different strategies, or maybe you're switching profiles, or even just starting the program, everything's faster now because we have used this smart method of compiling where we only compile the things that we need to. Big hand for Kosei Kraus, who went in and just really did a great job of cleaning things up so OmniTrader runs faster now. There's times you click on something and say, I'll go get a cup of coffee and come back and maybe it'll be done. Not anymore. It is a huge improvement, particularly for people using Omni language or that are configuring strategies, so on and so forth. It is huge. It's so much easier and just makes it so much more enjoyable to use OmniTrader now with the ultra fast compiling. Now we have some other stuff, like every time you open a systems block, it'll go ahead and sort to the enabled strategies, which everybody seemed to want. And so we went ahead and added that. You can also put indicators behind price. Here's an example. I have a moving average, and a little hard to see. I made it a little thick here. But see, now we have it behind the actual price information, so it's easier to see the price information. All right. We also have our smart data window. This is a big one as far as I was concerned. When you click on something with the crosshairs, you get a data window. Well, it would cover up information like the value of the indicators that you have plotted on your chart, so on. And so now it will actually move out of the way. Love it. Great addition to OmniTrader 2020. You also have the ability to change the width of a volume bar, and you can also change the width of bar and line charts as well. And something else I know a lot of you are going to really like is that, we had the old MG groups, and they were a little sketchy as far as the information they were giving you. All right. Now we have Zach's group in OmniTrader 2020. Zach's is like the at the forefront in our industry as far as groups and fundamental analysis Well, we have their groups now in OmniTrader 2020, so you can use those instead of using the old MG groups, which have not been maintained well. Zacks now is the go-to for your group information. All right. So as you can see, there's a lot in OmniTrader 2020 and the plugin itself. So we are including with the package the seminar, Power Your Trading with MTC, and it covers not just the features in the upgrade, but it really goes into MTV quite a bit. I'll show you just different ways you can create different MT visions that you could also do your own templates. We talk about the different scans that are provided, a lot of information in the seminar. In fact, it's one of the longer ones I've done. Sorry about that. But there was so much information to cover that I really wanted to touch on everything so that you have the information you need to take advantage of the features in this upgrade. Okay, so for those of you who may not have seen our offer or were aware of our upgrade package is available now. We have a special up until November 4th, not too far away. You can buy just the upgrade itself or the package. And you see our special pricing on the upgrade is $199 until that date. We have our special package pricing, which includes the upgrade. It includes MT Vision. It also has the seminar, the templates and scans. This is quite a plugin actually. That whole package is $395 again by November 4th. If you go to nirvanasystems.com/OmniTrader-2020, you'll see more information on the features in the upgrade, but also in MT Vision, and it also gives you the ability to order it there. Or you can give us a call, 1-800-880-0338. Operators are standing by, and they'll be happy to answer any questions you might have as far as the upgrade or MT Vision itself. Okay, I went a little long. It's just a lot to cover. It's really probably my favorite upgrade we've done in a decade, to be honest. Really like these features that we've added and the plugin itself. I just think there's so much possibility as far as not just what's being provided and helping us with trading, but also stuff that we can develop using the information provided by them. So at this point, we'll go ahead and answer any questions that you might have. Angela, can you help me out here? We've got a lot of questions here, so if you can feed me some questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them.
Sure, we've got quite a few good ones here, Jeff.
Okay.
The first one is from Thomas. He says, will multiple time frame indicators, will the ability for charts also carry through into Omni language for when we create our own indicators, etc.?
The answer is yes, and the way you would do that, Thomas, and hello, by the way, and I'm jealous about your weather. I saw you mentioning that earlier, but the way you would do that is with that Omni script. Let me go back a few slides here. Whoop. No, I'm not there yet. There we go, and I went past it. So in Omni language, what you would use, I said this was Omni script, but in Omni language, you would be able to use this same call in order to create your indicator systems and stops. So it's no different than Omni script, except of course in Omni language, there's a lot more you can do with it. So same call, and it will work for anything you want to do in Omni language as well.
Thank you.
Right,
next question is from Keith. He says, does MT stuff work on user-defined chart periods, such as 3-day and 9-day charts? How about Heikin-Ashi?
Love it, love it, love it. Now, Heikin-Ashi, I think it will, because that's not really a non-time based. Again, it's based off time. Now, Heikin-Ashi is actually based on time. All you have to do, let me do this. 4 weeks, I'm going to add daily. How about 2 days? And 250, let's make that 500. And I'll say, okay, I'm going to add another one. Let's do 3 days. Whoops, I said 6. You can do that as well, but I'm going to do 3. I'm going to add that 500, click OK. All right, now this is an MT Vision, but of course, you can do that with any periodicity because it's using the current +1 or current -1 paradigm that we created years ago. So it's looking at the different periodicities you have in your profile itself, and then it'll go ahead and say, okay, current +1 means something else. But I think it's easier to see in MT Vision. Let me go ahead and I'll just do an ADX here. Close it, and there we go, voila. Here we have our daily, 2-day, 3-day, weekly, and 4-week. And I need to configure the colors a little bit better. This gives you an idea of, yes, all these features we're talking about, we'll look at the periodicities in your profile, access those, and then it will go ahead and use those. So anything, it's all wide open. And in real time, you could do, a 17-minute chart if you wanted to. Anything you wanted to do, these features will just use the periodicities in your profile. Good question.
All right, our next question is from Carl. He wants to know if this works for end of day data. I think he's referring to the MT Vision.
Yeah, it's all the same. Good question, Carl. Whether you're in real time, end of day, whatever security type you're looking at, futures, Forex, equities, it's all the same. It's basically just collecting that information that you have or you're being fed, and it will render that. So it works for any type of time frame. In fact, I think that's, again, this upgrade is providing features, the package itself, MT Vision as well, providing features that just about anybody, I can't imagine anybody not being able to take advantage of the features we provided, because it's so flexible as far as the time frames being used.
All right, here's one from Ken. He says, oh wow, lots of them popping in right now. Sorry, let me get back to that one. I have a time frame between daily and weekly. Can you delete the weekly or reorder the time frames?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit there, Ansel. The end of that question was, can you
delete the weekly or reorder the time frames?
You can delete the weekly, but you can't reorder. That's already been requested. We'll see what we can do about that. But just to show you, you go edit data periods. Again, you have complete control. So let's say I didn't want to use weekly, get rid of it. Oh, no, you can't delete the time frame. Actually, let me try that again. It's forcing me to keep the weekly. That's fine. Any of your custom time frames you can delete, though. I don't know why it won't let me do that. Let me get rid of that. So I got rid of the 2 and the 3-day, delete. 4 weeks I can get rid of. All right, I'll check on development. I don't know why you can't get rid of these as well, but in the custom timeframes you currently can, hopefully in versions of the plugin moving ahead, or OmniTrader 2020, you can get rid of any time frame you want. I don't see why it's forcing you to keep some time frames.
Okay, next question is from our buddy Dave. He says, MTV scans, trend bearish and trend bullish MTV scans are great. What is the thinking behind the top-down trend scans?
The top-down trend scan. Okay, that's a little detailed. We do cover that a bit. It's basically the concept we talked about. What you're looking at is a higher time frame to determine something. You're going to a lower time frame in order to either confirm that or look for something else in order to apply it to that higher time frame. Let me go into OmniScans. I'll show you. There are 2 that we are providing that are really focused on top down, and we can see it here. So what we're doing is we're using that OmniScript I talked about. There's our multiple time frame. There's an indicator we call DC direction we're using at weekly, okay? And so it's determining, in fact, I could probably just move that up because that's really what it's doing. It's looking at the higher time frame, and now it's going to recalculate, excuse me on that. But so it's looking at that first and saying, okay, here's the candidates that have passed the higher time frame. Now let me apply some other analysis to it and look at the candidates that are in the lower time frame there. So I'm sorry for it to calculate there. It takes a little while because it's creating all these bars, particularly if you're using dynamic, which looks like on this one. I don't know if it's using dynamic or not, but either way, it's having to go in and basically create these time frames, creating the scan. Takes a little while to recalculate. It'll be done here in just a moment. But yeah, so it's looking at the higher time frame for a condition, saying, all right, I'll look at these in lower time frames in order to see how they match other conditions. Okay.
All right. Question from Larry. Does MT Vision work with ticks? I haven't actually tried that. Have you tried that one, Jeff?
I have not tried ticks. I don't know about that. That's a good question because it's not really a time frame. We will have to try that, Larry. Good question. I don't know the answer. I'll just have to admit it.
I'll check with Barry on that one and get back with you.
Right.
Another question from Thomas. Can you show how to change the volume bar width, please?
I could if I wasn't recalculating these different time frames at this point. It's actually, I'll show you where it's at. I'm using, this isn't the official release that I'm using, and I don't know if that feature was added at that point. You know, when you're in the development cycle, sometimes you get a build that you're like, Okay, this one, everything's working really fine. I'll stick with this even though it doesn't have all the features. Let me see if I can close this. Yeah, it's going to just take a moment here. Basically, just go to your chart options. On the first chart tab is where you would change that. I don't have an example, so hopefully OT will wrap up here in a moment. Very simple to do, and in fact, if you want to just shoot us an email or something, we can show you exactly where that's at. And it's probably also in the documentation, but I have OT not responding at this point, unfortunately, so I can't show you.
Right, it's just on that very first chart tab, and it's right next to the volume color option. There is a width that you can adjust, and it is in the documentation, so you can find it under what's new. And that is the last question that I see, Jeff.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you everybody for attending. If you think of other questions, let us know. Again, remember that our special, let me go back to the slides and get to the last one. There it is. Remember our special ends November 4th, not too far off. So go to nirvanasystems.com/OmniTrader-2020. Check out the features, but let us know if you have any questions. And other than that, thank you for attending and best of luck in your trading. Good night.